So let me tell you a couple of things which I'm very excited about. One is, Indian macros look very exciting. It couldn't have looked better.
Agreed.
Probably even micros look excellent. I would go to the extent of saying this government is particularly good at managing fiscal issues and very prudent. They're very well consolidating towards that 4.5% they're talking about for FY26. Uh, Something excites me more even than here is, they have actually trying to reduce the primary deficit, which could actually be a game changer. Otherwise, the focus on that primary deficit would be a very, very good thing. External situation looks great. The current account deficit is around 1.5, 1.2%. You have 650 odd billion of forex. Broader direction of inflation remains, within the RBI's comfort zone. Though I'm a little concerned about the last inflation print, which came at 6.2%. There's also a talk about it being a little sticky, and RBI itself was a little hawkish on inflation. But what worries me the most is there's a visible slowdown in the economy, which people talk about, and Q2 is obviously at 5.4%, much lower than what the RBI estimates were, or even the market expectations for that reason. RBI has actually rehashed the FY25, growth projections to, I think, 6.6%, if I recollect correctly. So let me be a devil's advocate and make it a little difficult for you. Though there are signs of, I think, rural growth, but urban consumption and growth has been a bit of a concern for everyone. Private capex has not been there for last 10 years. Do we depend on public spending in the next or the second half to push the growth, or do we see it to be a systemic slowdown and could sustain longer? Would you be actually worried about it?
So let me add some data points to it. So Maxie, one thing about me, which you very well know, and for the benefit of the audience, I give more importance to one step down data than the print data, right? So let's do that first. And let me talk about corporate capex or the private capex. I think the opportunity there is huge and the direction is amazingly right. One example of corporate capex is capital goods. You look at the commentary of Larsen, ABB, Siemens, for that matter, Suzlon, or any of the major players, they are talking right after a very, very, very long.
Yes.
Their earnings growth. So one expect, which I look at from a demand perspective, is margin. All capital goods companies have improved their margin in the last 3 years. If the capex was missing, they don't have pricing power. They would be desperate for the orders. And this margin improvement has happened in spite of volatility in the commodity price, which means the ground level capex is there. Now, it's very easy to say that BHEL, Larsen would have got government orders. But I'm talking about the broader picture and not including only the government company. I'm not including only BEL, Larsen, and BHEL. I'm talking about the bigger private players also. A lot of it might be around defense, which has grown a lot. But that gives me the confidence that if the government spends, the capex mood changes a lot. I'm not worried about the capex from a structural perspective. A quarter here and there will always happen on the decision.
Okay.
The big difference between my understanding of the real 2 decades is that rural is consumption is more, you will be surprised, but is more planned and seasonal compared to urban, which is more impulsive in nature. The way it functions is rural is आज पैसा है तो मैं खर्चा करूँ, ठीक है, and which is why when the season of Rabi crop cutting or the Kharif crop cutting comes, we see expenditure around it, right? So it's a rural has a pattern. Urban over a period of time has become more, I will say, impulsive in the nature, where the mood happens with what the commentary they see. For example, and I'm talking about individual examples like our stuff. You want to buy a new car. You are indifferent 6 months here and there, right? It's if everybody around you is delaying that, then you will say that okay, something is missing. Let's
Hmm.
wait. Whereas everybody is buying a new car. Oh, that's a good car. I also need it. Let me do it now. So discretionary spend is very impulsive and hard policy, right? And inflation has hit urban consumption. That's let's accept that. So it's a mix of these two which has delayed the consumption.
Okay.
This quarter becomes very important for it because of the festive season, the marriage season. I expect if we directionally don't see improvement, then yes, I'll be worried. But my understanding is it's very impulsive. Last 4 years, the committee was economy is doing well, everything is well, we learned well. So people kept spending.
Hmm.
Last 3 to 4 months, the commentary has been mixed. So
Narrative
unwanted
shifts.
delay happens. It's prudent spending, right?
Absolutely.
And we saw a lot more spending on tourism, probably buying of home and stuff, which would have delayed the smaller discretionary spend. That's the way I look at it. But yes, that's the missing piece which needs to work out for economy and markets to do well. I completely agree with that in part.
Interesting. So just taking you a little away from this discussion because we talked about so much about rural economy. I'm just thinking aloud. So we have around, if my numbers are correct, around 20 crore farmers today, who are involved in the agricultural profession. We probably will have to, government will have to try and bring it down to 5 crore, which is the optimum number for a country of our size, I understand. How do you think this is going to eventually change in long run? The way urban, spending patterns are concerned, or how would it influence the economy as on a larger scale?
So I think that can only happen not while policies will have to be there, but I think that will naturally happen as the economy grows. See, we are traditional people. The culture, physical assets give us more mental relief rather than the virtual or the
Virtual
financial
assets.
assets.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Even today, and you are a
Sorry.
very experienced financial planner. If I ask you that I want to buy my first home for the shelter or invest it in equities, you will predominantly and very naturally and rightly say, let's try and buy the
Oh, this is
house
my
if we can
priority.
afford.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the mentality, right? The agriculture income is because the farmer believes that I own the land. So they will migrate from agriculture to non-agriculture only when the income in non-agriculture is very high.
Option, it looks much better. Yeah.
Yes. That will happen only when the economy grows. So it's a transition which is very natural, where the opportunities are created, which is where we need large manufacturing setups, which is where we need the MNC and the private capex, so that there are more job creation, the economy grows fast, and there's enough income opportunity. The second part of it is the education part. I think what this government did started a few years back is Pakka Ghar for everybody and health insurance means that they will have disposable income to educate their kids. So I believe that 20 years from now, let's assume a generation to be 20
Yeah.
years, those kids of farmers will be well educated to understand the opportunity outside agriculture. And hence a shift will happen naturally. So it's a gradual process.
That's a gradual process. Yeah, absolutely understand.